Rodrick, hi, I'm Don Ruck. I'm the lawyer who's appointed to represent you tomorrow morning for the detention hearing. I want to spend a little bit of time right now talking to you a little bit about what happened, then more specifically about our strategies in going to court tomorrow in achieving hopefully what it is that you want, and that's getting out of here and going home. So why don't you take me back a little bit. I've read the police report. I know generally what one side of the story is. But as you know, in any of these kind of situations, there's always two sides to the story. So one of the things that I want to get so I can better represent you tomorrow is, from your perspective, what it was that happened, how we got into this situation, and then most importantly, how we're going to get you out.
Okay, well, what's so funny is, like, the guy, it's a guy that's here, he went to jail yesterday, like, in front of my house. I'm going to tell you, like, what started it off. And, like, so I had to call somebody else for a ride because the ride that he was in, they couldn't move their car. So I waited for my ride to come. And my ride arrived at my house, I say like 1:30 a.m.
What were you doing at 1:30 a.m.? These are some of the questions the court's going to ask.
Everybody asked me that. I was waiting on my friend because one of my friends that I've been knowing for like a couple of years, he only like 19, but he a manager of a gas station. So he closed down the gas station pretty late. And he came and got me, I say, like at 1:30 to take me to my girlfriend's house, you know, to go see my daughter. And on our way there, we seen like several police officers, but, you know, I'm not too much worried about it because, you know, I wasn't doing nothing to be interfering with them. So I pull up there, I get there, and the police, like, they at the other end of the street, like on the opposite way of us, like, so they come down a one-way street. And I'm already out the car on my way to the door, so he flashes his light on me and he asks me, what are we doing? And I could have just like walked in the house on him, but I didn't want to do that and he think I was doing something wrong, so I just came back outside. And when I came back outside, he just like grabbed me. But the guy that Quail had with him, he already ran. You know, I guess he left his weed or whatever. So by the time I get to the car, he asked me, did I have anything on me? And I told him no. So he searched me, and then the other officer that was with him searched me.
Did you have anything on you?
I didn't have nothing on me. So then by the time, like, the other next two police cars got there, the next police officer, the third one that searched me, he came back and they said, well, who weed is this? And I said, well, it's not my weed. Well, he said, somebody gonna go to jail for this weed. And I said, it's not gonna be me. So then he tried to like put me in handcuffs, and I started tussling with him because I didn't want to go to jail for something that wasn't mine, but the other officer told me I shouldn't have did that. And that's how I got my hands cut up and my legs and my face and the whole nine. But
you got your face cut up and your hands cut up?
Yeah, and I feel like the force that they used wasn't right for what I was doing at that time. And then they used a whole can of mace on me. And then from what I know is they told me I passed out, all the people that was out there. Because it was people that honestly that didn't know me that came up to the police station that was trying to like help me and give away the story. So by the time I guess I like woke up and all of that, and I asked the officer what was I in jail for, and he told me for PC and resisting arrest. And the other officer said that they was gonna charge me as an adult. So I'm getting ready to get charged as an adult, and they had me in a cell where all the adults was at. Because, you know, I've been to jail before, and, you know, they took me to the adult cell. So I'm waiting, and I guess they was going to fingerprint me or whatnot. And the other officer said, well, he's only 17. He was like, well, he'll be 18 in a couple days, so let's just charge him as an adult.
When's your birthday?
August 16th.
You're going to be 18 on August 16th?
Yeah. So, and I already got to go to court August 12th for here.
All right, now you spent a year at boys' school, right?
A whole year, and that's something like I do not want to do again, especially for something I didn't do. But that's why I just been in my room just like sleep. Because I know like because my mom, she even told me like if I ever in my life came back to jail, she wouldn't come see me, anything like that. But I talked to her and she told me she'd be there because my friend Quill that I was with, he told her the whole story. And I guess she halfway believed it, but then she had no choice but to believe it the way that everything happened.
All right, well, let me do this. Let me explain to you the process of what's going to happen tomorrow. Then let me ask you a few questions that hopefully will give me the best opportunity to, again, accomplish what we want to have accomplished. Tomorrow's hearing is for the purpose of the judge to decide whether or not to keep you here while the charges against you pend. Tomorrow's hearing is not the trial on the underlying charges, but merely a hearing to determine where you're placed while the case against you pends. So what the court's going to be looking at is really...
They want to feel like I'm a threat to society, and I feel like I'm not a threat to society.
Okay, well, let me finish. What the court's going to look at is not just whether you're a threat to society, because I don't think it looks to me, from at least what I've been able to gather from your record, that you're a threat to society or a threat to yourself. But more importantly, the court's going to want to be assured that you're able to return to all the future court proceedings. And the challenge becomes, in a case like yours, where this is not a first offense. And it's not like you had, just some, a small amount of pot on you, but you've been in trouble before. And not just what happened with finding the drugs, but then what happened after the police arrived and found the drugs. The resisting arrest and the things like that we just talked about are things that I think the court's going to be particularly concerned about in deciding whether or not it's safe to let you out. Do you follow me? What do you think we can do to tell the court, what would you tell the judge that, why you should be let home?
Me, myself, personally, like I've been through a lot since the, 06 with this little juvenile system. And, tomorrow I honestly think I'm going to have my probation officer on my side.
What do you think he's going to say?
Not even he, she, just for the simple fact I've been on this probation since I got out of boys' school, since December 9th. Before that, I used to act away in school, bad grades, and I improved all that. I get good grades. I haven't been suspended this year. A lot of good things just been happening, and this is my last year. I'm supposed to be a senior. But see, what I was gonna do was, if I didn't have enough credits, I was gonna go to Job Corps. And I used to have a 6-point star tattooed on my arm. And my judge told me when I came back to court, he wanted me to have positive things, because I was supposed to get released August 12th. And he told me to have positive things. The only positive things that I had was that I found out I'm having another kid. So I gotta get myself prepared for that, because it's just not me no more.
You've got one child, right?
Yeah, and I got another one coming.
Okay.
And I just feel like I gotta live for that. And I don't know, I just really wanna go home. But if they feel like they don't wanna let me, then I understand that. But I'm gonna give me a lawyer to fight my case.
Well, Rod, let me tell you this then. One of the things that I think we can talk about tomorrow is not just the reason why you want to get out so you can care for your child and the one that's on the way, but what do you think we should do to approach your mother? What do you think she's going to say?
My mother, she's the only thing I think she really going to say is, what happens, happen. But she know that the stuff wasn't mine, and that's why she going to be here tomorrow.
Well, if she believes you, that's half the battle.
That's why she going to be here tomorrow, because she believes me.
Is she going to say that she wants to take you home?
Yeah, my mother, she will honestly tell you, I got a little brother that's 3, He ain't seen me in a whole year. But, he look up to me. So she gonna really look at that. And, he always, want to follow me and do all that little stuff. And, I do a lot of things with him, play basketball. And I'm the only boy figure he got in his life. But I don't know. I just feel like I'm here for nothing. And, people in there, they like, why you ain't wilding out and acting stupid? Because there's no reason, Because only boys do manage little stupid things like that.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like what happened with you is being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's what I see, but a lot of people not going to see that. And, just because I've been in trouble before, that's not going to help me, because I've been in trouble already.
Well, that's why we're talking now. What I want to do is be able to distinguish what happened before versus all the progress that you made, like you talked about, and then distinguish this incident from what happened in the past. And as long as we're able to ask your mother if she wants to take you home, and she says yes, that's going to go a long way. If she doesn't, we're going to have to really develop and tell the story about all of these things that have been happening to you and really show the judge that this is just you being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But see, me, I can honestly say, my judge, I got a judge named Judge Thomas. I think I changed over a lot of the years I've been in trouble, and I think 2008 been my best year. I'm finna go to school to be an electrician, try to do all them things.
Well, Rod, let me talk to you about that, because the final thing I want to be able to do is show the court if you're out, what you're going to do to better your life.
I know, for some reason, deep down in my gut, I know I'm going home tomorrow, just for the simple fact, my probation officer told me several times I'm the best client that she had. This year, I'm talking about I ain't really improved. And tomorrow when I go to court, if you guys be there, you will see like I really improved. Like it's like not even funny. Like the person I was and the person I became now is totally different, you know?
Well, I'm going to call you to the stand as your own witness tomorrow, because I think that if you can explain to the judge and explain to the court the way you just explained this to me right now, that the court's going to really, I think, see through to who you are and the motivations that you have to get yourself on the right track. And I think the fact that you've got one child right now and one more on the way, what better motivating factor is there?
My dad was locked up 10 years of my life, and he wasn't there, so I look at that and I always tell my mom, like, I want to be a better person than he was. And then it's like, I can't do that, and all this stuff happened. And, it made me think like that. It made me feel bad. And, that now that I'm sitting here for nothing, it made me feel even worse. So, like, why do I got to go through this? Like, when you try to do something good, it's like bad things come to you and stop you from doing good things. But, I ain't going to let this stop me. I'm still going to go to school to be an electrician. Still going to take care of my kids, and I'm still going to be me. It's just something tried to stop me. And, that's what they call, like, downfalls in life. But I'm just going to pick myself back up. That's it. But, I just was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And if I would have knew that I had people that was like that'll leave stuff like that around, and for me to go to jail, I would have never been there. But, you got to learn from your mistakes. Because it ain't like anybody that just get in the car and just keep asking them, like, hey, you got some drugs on you? That's just like me asking you now, like, hey, you got some drugs on you? You're just not going to go around asking people that, All
right, so the point is, they weren't your drugs. They weren't on you. You didn't know that those drugs were in the car.
I didn't know they was in the car.
And when the police came, your buddy took off, you stayed.
No, honestly, it's like, from what I remember, I got out the car, and I had a pop. I brought my girlfriend. I brought the pop. I just grabbed that. And, like, I seen the door just fly open in the back, like, and I look, and I see him running, and then here come the police car. So I just walk off. I close the door. And he, like, come in, and that's when I just come in, because, if I don't have anything, what's my reason to run? I should have went in the house. I wanted to do that, but I'm not that type of person, because I want to show people, like, oh, I'm not no bad person. That's why I went back and just talked to him, but he got aggressive with me, for no apparent reason. And then he thought I was an adult, because I got a nice gold chain. I came in here, nice clothes, and he think I was a drug dealer, and then they tried to take all my money. I got $453. And, they tried to take all my money, but I have a check showing that that's mine, And
Were
that's
you
why
working
they
at the
didn't.
time?
No, my auntie helped me out with a job. The whole summer I've been at my auntie's, cutting grass, cutting her friends' grass, doing a lot of stuff, because my auntie have a brain tumor in her head.
Okay, let's not talk anything more about what happened at the time. Here's what I want to talk about, just like what you were telling me. Let's talk about the things that you've got going positive in your life. Apart from your child, you were working all summer?
All summer.
Tell me about that.
Working, like, just cutting grass, helping out elderly people, because my auntie elderly. And basically that's all I did. And just chill at her house sometimes and play with my brother, Besides that, I played at first, at the beginning of the summer, I tried to play basketball at the summer camp, but too much running for me. So I couldn't do that. So my auntie asked me what could I do to stay out of trouble. And they was going to send me to Minnesota, but, being on probation, you can't leave. And, so I just stayed at my auntie's, and she gave me something to do. I make $150 a week doing nothing. All I got to do is cut some grass and dust around the floors and pictures, and I'm done. And just talk to her. And, that's basically it, my whole weekend.
Okay, apart from work, where are you at with your education?
My education, I'm a very intelligent, smart person.
What's the last? Tell me about it. Give me the specifics so I know what to ask.
Okay, I went from a person getting suspended every day and expelled out of schools and having straight Fs to becoming, when I came out of boys' school, I started in boys' school, I started getting good grades. When I got out of boys' school, I stayed on like a C, I say like a C to B average, It took me a second to catch up to where the other kids was, but I still caught up to where I wanted to be. And and what made it so bad, like,
when they was gonna take me off probation, I asked to stay on probation. They was gonna release me in this courtroom. I asked to stay on probation so it can push me a little harder, you know? Because, you know, if you got something riding over your back, you have no choice but to, you know, keep doing good because it's pressure. And that's just how I felt like I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Till I turned 18. And the best my judge said he can do is take me to court August 12th. And it's like when I go to court, he ain't gonna see, he gonna think that I was all about talk. But then from everything that I done did, why would I come and just mess up now? I'm 12 days away from getting released. 12 days.
Let's kind of complete the circle of where we started this discussion of where you see yourself now in a few years.
In the future, I know where I'm gonna be. I can honestly tell you I'm gonna be an electrician. Like, cause that's what I'm striving for. I'm not gonna be nothing else. Ain't nothing gonna stop me from being an electrician. That's something I wanted to do. I started off wanting to be a bricklayer, but now I want to be an electrician. And I'm going to go to school for that. And my mom, my auntie, they're going to be on the verge of paying that once I go to school for everything, you know?
Well, Rod, you've convinced me that you're certainly on the right track with things. Now our job is to convince the judge tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about your child. I think that's an important motivating factor in your life, a reason why you want to get out so you can help. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about the role you have as a father.
Well, to be honestly with you, I came out of boys' school December 9th. I ain't found out I had a child until like that February. And then just like a month ago, this other girl I used to talk to, she came and she told my mom that I had a child on the way. So my mom, so that's 2 childs that's involved in my life. Now the one that's already big, I'm starting to like trying to get into her life. And you
How
know
old is she?
She's 3. And the other one not even here yet. Like, and that's what's really hurting me, and that's what really make me think like I'm gonna be something like my father, because I hate being in the category of that.
You mean your kids now are going to be looking and having memories of their dad being in jail?
Yeah, like my dad having been like, why my dad don't have any pictures of me when I was a baby? You know, that's what I think about. Like all my pictures I look at, they be with my mom, grandma, and I look like with my father at. You know, he wasn't there. Why? Because he was in jail.
Where's your dad now?
My dad, you wouldn't even know he did 10 years in jail. He's somewhere living his life. Old, just living his life. I can't even tell you where my dad at right now. I ain't seen my dad since like 2004. And before 2004, before I seen him, I ain't seen him at night since 95. So I can't too much tell you nothing about my dad.
Rod, you've spent time there recently, being detained. How would you say that you're different from the guys that you're spending all this time with that are locked up for doing all kinds of different things?
Because something I learned from being just locked up, and you know what made it so bad, I went to boot camp. So, you know, it's motivation. So I think personally, the people that's in here now, they think they men, but they boys, because boys do what they want, you know. Well, men do what they can, you know. And they all, I don't know, like, they just, you can different, like a man can sit here and take pressure, like, and not relieve himself, hold his self-control. A boy, he'll wild out, like, oh, he said something to me, drop of a hat, he ready to fight, you know. And I don't know, maybe people just don't have them positive things. You know, they watch these rap videos and they think it's all about selling drugs and getting big cars. You can have all of that. Like, I got all of that, and I got it all. I ain't touched a drug in my, since I've been home. You know, it's been like a long time, like
Okay.
I can honestly say.
All right. There's plenty of things that we have to talk about, motivating factors in your life. There's a lot of things, I think positive things. We know the challenges that we have are distinguishing what's happened to you in the past, because if it's much different, if this is the first time you're ever here, it's very easy for us to go to the court and say, well, you made a mistake. Tomorrow, like I say, I'm optimistic that the court's going to really be well received, at least to understanding that you're not a threat. A big part of it's going to be what your mom has to say. That's going to be a big part of it. What I want you to do tonight is, again, focus on the consequences of what happened and how you've learned from that. And here's what I'll ask you to do. I want you to think tonight, if your younger brother came up to you and said, what happened, what do I learn from this? What advice would you give your 3-year-old brother about what happened? Think about that, and maybe that can help you to really focus what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Rodrick, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Okay?
That's fine with me.
Okay. Take care.
present representing the prosecutor's office. Ms. Clayton is present from the intake department. Ms. Essex is present, probation officer. Attorney Ruck is present representing Rodrick in this matter. Will you state your name, young man?
Rodrick Brown, miss.
And how old are you, Rodrick?
17, I'll be 18 in another 7 days, miss.
Okay. Your name, ma'am? All right. Your name, sir?
Robert Zabriskie, Family Support Services Program, family therapist.
So you've been providing therapy to Rodrick and his mother?
Yes.
All right. This matter is set today for a detention hearing, a probable cause hearing. Rodrick, did you see the movie that explained your rights?
No, yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what your rights are?
No, yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions about them?
No, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Ruck, you've read the fact sheet from the East Chicago Police Department.
I have, Judge.
Do you have any issue with regard to probable cause in this matter?
I don't.
So at this time, this child is charged with possession of marijuana and resisting law enforcement. Do you have any witnesses that you would like to call on his behalf?
Judge, I have several witnesses. I'd like to start off today by calling Rodrick Brown to the stand.
Okay. Rodrick, want to have a seat up here, please?
Okay, young man, tell us your name.
My name is Rodrick Lavelle Brown.
Mr. Brown, this isn't your first time being involved with this court or with the detention center, is it?
Sir, no, sir.
Can you give us a little bit of background as to your prior involvement before the charges that brought you here today?
Well, before I got into the situation I'm in now, I got in trouble about a year ago, which caused me to go to the DOC of boys school. And I spent about a year of my life there. And, you know, the stuff that I went for, you know, I took responsibilities for my actions and, you know, I know what I did. This is my first, like, interfering with the law and all that since I've been home. And I just feel like everything I've been working for, like, just trying to get my life straight, it's like it's going down the drain. But my mother tell me, like, it's a lot of downfalls that I'm gonna have in my life, so I shouldn't let them stop me from doing what I'm supposed to do. And you know, regardless, if I go home today or when I go home, I'm still gonna go to job corps, I'm still gonna go to school, and I'm still gonna go to be an electrician. And you know, my mother know, I don't know if my probation officer or my counselor been informed, but I think I talked to my counselor about it months before. You know, I got a kid on the way, so I really can't live for me no more.
Okay, let's back up a minute, Rodrick, and let's take this one step at a time. The purpose of today's hearing, as you understand, is for the court to make a decision whether or not you should remain detained while these charges against you pend, or whether you should be released to the custody of your mother with or without certain restrictions. You understand that? Rod, do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Rod, let's talk first about what brings you here today. You're being charged with possession of marijuana and resisting law enforcement. Without going into all the details about what happened that night, let me just ask you a few questions. You were with somebody else that night, weren't you?
Yes, my friend Marquell.
Who was driving the car that night?
Marquell.
Where were you seated in that car?
In the passenger seat. And there was another person that was with us too. And he was in the back. And his name, Artie.
Now, let me just ask you point blank. There was marijuana that was found, correct?
Sir, yes, sir.
Was that your marijuana?
No, sir.
What happened?
Well, around like 10 o'clock, my mom had to be at work. And you know, she know I go to my girlfriend's house. And I went to my mom couldn't take me to work, so my friend Marquell, you know, he's a real good friend of mine, my best friend. And you know, he closes his store down, the gas station, because he's a manager of a gas station. And he closed that down like around 12:31. And he came to my house at about 1:30 a.m. And if I had my phone, it would show that. And by the time I got to my girlfriend's house, I say it was about 12, I say 12. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. But on our way coming over the bridge, I already seen an officer following us. But you know, I had my seatbelt and everything on. And by the time I got to my girlfriend's house, he was sitting at the other end of the street, like he was watching us. But I got out the car, and me and the guy that was in the back was supposed to switch seats. And the police came down the one way, and the guy in the back took off. But I kept going to the porch. You know, I have no reason to run. So the officer flashed the light on me. It was two of them inside one car. And he asked me where was I coming from. He kept asking me, did I have an ID? And you know, I told him, no, I'm only 17. And he replied that I was lying to him and told me I was older. So he asked me for my ID. So I just came off the porch. I could have walked in the house on him, but I didn't want him to feel like I had anything. So I walked back to the car, and by the time I put my hand on the car, he started raising my arms behind my back, you know, and it was hurting me. And I was asking him what he was doing. He was like, well, why your buddy run? Why your buddy run? And I told him I didn't know why. So in the meaning of that, the other cop, he sprayed me with pepper spray. And they sprayed me with so much pepper spray, like I fell out, like I couldn't breathe or nothing like that. And the ambulance came in the mix of all this. And then, like, by the time I got to the police station and I asked him what was I being taken to jail for, he said resisting arrest and PC. And then, like, in the mix of all that, I heard them talking about charging me as an adult. And I didn't tell nobody I was on probation or anything like that. And the other officer, they like closed the door, I guess, so I couldn't hear them talk. And then he came back, and I guess they was trying to scare me, telling me I was going down for a long time. And the other officer felt bad for me, so he charged me as a juvenile.
You talked a little bit about, when you started speaking today, about the change that you had thought you were making when you went to Boys Town, and that you were disappointed now that this is going to set you back. Tell me what it is that you learned in going through a year in Boys Town, and how you can convince the court today that, having gone through that, why you're back in handcuffs and in court again.
I think, me, myself personally, and not what everybody think about me, what I think, me going to boys' school showed me more how to be a man than being a boy. It showed me how to grow up. Because before I went to boys' school, I was a boy. And you know, when I left there, I came out as a man. Because you know, only a man can, you know, do and confess up to the things that he doing, you know, make up for man things. And you know, a boy here, like say if anybody want to start a fight or anything, a boy will fight in a snap of a second, a man to sit there and talk and, you know, try to resolve that problem. And I just felt like it calmed me down a totally different life, because I felt like if I would have just got released last year and never went to boys' school, I think I'd honestly be across the street somewhere or here for something even worse than what I'm here for today.
You have a child?
I have a child.
You have one more child on the way?
On the way.
Does the fact that you have a child in your life and another child in the way motivate you in any way to try and get your life turned around once and for all?
Yeah, cause me growing up, I ain't had no father, you know?
Where was your father?
And my father spent 10 years of my life in jail, you know? And every time I think about that, and you know, my sister, you know, she talks with the other girl, you know, and she tell her that I'm supposed to have a boy on the way, but when I think about that, you know, I just think about my dad, and I don't want to be nothing like him. You know, and my dad been out of jail for the past, like, 5 years now, and I ain't seen my dad more than twice, you know?
Where's your dad now?
I really don't know. As far as what I know, the dad that I did have, he's dead. You know, that was my stepfather. My real father, he spent most of my life in jail. And you know, and now that I'm here, and then I think about that, it just made me feel bad. And then it's like, when I think about it, like, I could have honestly did something and made myself come here for a reason, but I'm not gonna even think like that.
What do you think should happen to you today? What should the court do?
To be honest, if letting me home is just I want to do it for the kid, you know? That's all I really want to do it for, if anything. I want to do it for myself too, and my mother, but I just been working so hard. And I don't want to feel like I just let all that go to waste. And it been like a year and a half, like a half a year now, you know, and I'm talking about I done improved on my schoolwork. I ain't been suspended none a year I've been in school, and that's like, that really make me feel good, because I'm used to getting suspended and little stupid stuff. I'm finna be a senior in high school.
Okay, so you want to go home, correct?
Yes, sir.
You want to be released to your mother's custody, correct?
Yes, sir.
How can you, or what can you tell to the judge today that will convince her that you're going to return to all future court hearings, and that during the time that you're released in your mother's care, that you're not going to be arrested again and brought back to court on new charges?
Well, for one thing, I'm going to stay out of places I really don't supposed to be and away from people in bad situations. And for 2, I have to come back here because I got another court date. I was supposed to go up for release, I think, next week on the 12th. So I have to come back for that. And then regardless of anything, I still gonna have to come back, you know, because that's my responsibilities. I'll be 18.
Have you ever missed any prior court dates?
The only court date I ever missed is when I cut my house arrest band. And that's when I was young, dumb, and stupid, you know?
How old were you then?
16, 15, around them 2 ages. That's the most years of my life I've been in trouble.
Okay, that's all I have, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik, do you have any questions for Rodrick?
Yes, Rodrick, were the other people you were with arrested?
That I don't know, miss. Like I told you, when I got sprayed with the mace, I couldn't see nothing. And when I woke up in a police station.
Okay, and where were you at when you got sprayed with the mace?
I don't know the block. I don't know the street. I know the street, but I don't know, like, if I was on the 3900 block or the 40, but I know it was on the street called Drummond. And that's all that I do know. I don't know if anybody else went to jail. I know I woke up inside a cell.
What time did you get picked up by the police?
I believe it was like 2 o'clock. Because I know when I left my house, it was 1:30
2 o'clock in the morning?
in the morning, miss.
And you had $453 on you to go shopping the next day.
The next morning.
Well, where were you going to be between 2 o'clock in the morning and the next day when you
I
went
was
shopping?
going to be asleep at my girlfriend's house
And where does she live?
on Drummond. In front of the house where they picked me up from.
And you said you were going to go into the house when the police stopped you?
Yeah, they flashed the light, and the only reason why I turned around, because he said, hey. You know, I seen the light, but I ain't want him to feel like I had anything with him knocking on my girlfriend's door and her mom think I'm causing problems. So I just walked back to the car. And when I walked back to the car, they got all aggressive with me.
So if I understand what you're saying here, you're still on status with this court. You've been to the Department of Corrections.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been on status for quite a while, not real successfully. It's 2:10 a.m. in the morning. You're in a city other than that you reside in, and you've got marijuana on you.
That's what they say.
Oh, but that's not true.
Let me object to any questions dealing with admissions related to the underlying charges that are pending against him.
Well, I think he's already been asked those questions, Judge.
I'm going to overrule your objection. He can answer the question. You did ask him that on direct, Mr. Ruck, so he can go ahead. You can answer the question.
What was the question, sir? Miss?
I'll repeat it. You've been on status with this court since 2005.
Yes, ma'am.
You've had a number of services, including you've been to the Department of Corrections.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you've been on status since then, not real successfully. It's 2:10 a.m. on August 2nd. You're in a city other than that you reside in, and you have marijuana on you. Can you explain that?
Okay, I can explain me being out 2 in the morning. The reason why I didn't go to my girlfriend's earlier, because my mom have to be at work at 10 o'clock. And my friend Marquell, you know, I can bring papers back showing that he's like a manager of a gas station, and they don't close their gas station until about 12:30, 1 o'clock. And by the time he gets to my house at B's, like 1:30. And by the time I made it to EC, it was already 2 o'clock, because it takes about 30 minutes to get there from my house. And as far as having marijuana on me, miss, I wouldn't, me, myself, honestly, I wouldn't carry no marijuana on me around 2 in the morning, even if I had any marijuana. And the person that had the marijuana, they didn't even catch him.
So when the police said the marijuana was in your pocket, that's a lie.
That's a lie, because I promise you, I can bring back, like, that's why I thought I was going to court across the street. I could bring back 1,000,001 people to say they did not pull that weed out of my pocket. Because
1,000,001 people.
I got searched before I even got sprayed with the mace.
How many people were out at this scene at 2:10 a.m.?
I say it was my girlfriend, her mother came outside, her boyfriend, and 2 of the next door neighbors.
Let's step back a little bit. You said you couldn't even go to your mother or to your girlfriend's house till your mother left for work.
No, I couldn't leave to go to my girlfriend's house because my mother had to go to work. Because my mother have to be at work at 10 o'clock.
Okay. What does your mother having to be at work at 10 o'clock have to do with you going to the girlfriend's house at 1:30?
Because just in case anybody wanted to know, why I did not leave to go to my girlfriend's house earlier, they'll know why I didn't, because I didn't have another ride. And my mother and my friend Marquel was my only ride. That's why I said that, miss.
Well, why couldn't your mother take you to your girlfriend's house before she went to work at 10?
Because my girlfriend wasn't off work yet.
Did your mother approve of you being out at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, I call every time I'm outside like that, I calls my mother and let her know where I'm going. I tell, like, my grandma, she been at my house for the past couple weeks, and I tell her where I'm going, and my mom calls me at night.
Okay, and who is this Marquel?
Marquel Starks, he's a best friend of mine, a real best friend of mine. My mom know him.
Where does he live?
I know he lives on Barron in East Chicago.
He's a good friend of yours, but you don't know where he lives?
I know he live on Barron in East Chicago. I don't know the address, but I know how to get there, miss.
How old is he?
Marquel, he just made 20.
How is it you're a friend of a 20-year-old? You're 17.
Because before, when I first moved to East Chicago, he was one of the first guys I met. And you know, ever since my friend got killed a couple years ago, me and him been friends since he died, because we was involved with, you know, being with him, coming off the school bus. And that's the only reason why I deal with Marquel.
And who was the other guy in the car?
One of Marquel's friends, and his name, Artie. And I really don't know too much about him, because he's from EC.
What time did Marquel pick you up?
Like 1:30. It had to be like 1:30, because we made it to EC at 2 o'clock. I looked at my phone, because I had to call my girlfriend before I came to the door, and it was like 2 o'clock.
So you did go to the door there.
I made it to the door. I made it right there by the door. It's just the officer flashed that light on me. And you know, if you run or go in the house, they'll try to say you running from them. So I just wanted to come back to show him that I wasn't doing nothing. Because, miss, everybody think about it, if I had anything, why didn't I go, you know what I'm saying? Why did I go back to the car? I could have just went in the house and left it alone, you know?
I have no further questions, Judge.
Mr. Rock, anything else?
Rodrick, despite everything that happened that night, despite the past involvement that you've had with the legal system and with this court, can you assure the judge today that you're not a flight risk, that you're not a threat, and that you're going to come back to court?
Me, myself, personally, I know I'm not a threat to society, just for the simple fact, all the old people on my block, and my mother can tell you, like my block, I live in a trashy neighborhood, yeah, and I honestly go and I clean up my whole neighborhood sometimes. It may not sound like it, but I do, and my mother can tell you that, and I do it on my own time. So really, I really don't think I'm a threat to my community, because I try to help my community, you know? And then I cut my neighbor's grass, and I do all type of stuff like that. And I know I'm coming back to court because I didn't do nothing. And you know, I want to get released off probation next week, which I know that's probably not going to happen because now I got this to deal with. And you know, as far as me going back home and you guys thinking I'm going to go after the dude that left his weed behind, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to ever be around that person no more.
Are you going to cooperate with the prosecutor's office in identifying the person whose marijuana that it was?
I can do that.
Will you do that?
I will do that because it's not mine. I'm not going to jail for nothing that's not mine. I've been working too hard this year, sir. Too hard this year. The year of 2008, I have improved my whole life. My mother told me a long time ago when I was in boys' school, if I ever in my life, from now to the time I'm dead, if I ever got locked up, she wasn't going to come and see me. She wouldn't be here now. And you know, I felt that's why I know my mother believed me and she know the truth. That's why she here today.
That's all I have, Judge.
I have a question. Rodrick, you've been in counseling with Mr. Zimbersky? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been in counseling with him?
I can say for the past year now.
Has that helped?
I believe Bob's helped me. You know, Bob's a funny guy. He gets me through times, you know. And like, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I may forget, you know, to hit him up and call him sometimes, but he reminds me, he let me know things that I need to be on top of. And he always give me this positive thing. That's why me part of going to Job Corps is part of Bob, you know?
That was his idea?
It was my idea, but he just helped me as far as getting into it, you know? And Bob comes see me through times when he don't even supposed to come see me, you know?
Have you been having drug tests while you've been on probation?
Yeah.
And what about the results of those drug tests?
They've been good.
You've never had a dirty drug screen?
I'm here now.
Can you pass a drug screen today?
I believe I can.
What do you mean you believe you can?
I believe I can. I'd do it any other time.
Okay. All right, you can have a seat next to your lawyer. Next witness, Mr. Rock.
Judge, at this time, I would like to call Bob Zimberski to the stand, please. State your name, please, sir.
Robert Zimberski.
And Mr. Zimberski, what is your occupation?
I'm a family therapist with the Indiana Juvenile Justice Task Force.
How long have you worked in that capacity?
About 3 years.
What do you do?
As a counselor, I develop a positive rapport with the clients and the family and try to find out what are the underlying causes of his oppositional defiance or behavior issues. Rodrick and I have been working together for approximately a year and a half.
How often would you visit with him?
Several times a week, an average of around 2 times a week.
And were these therapeutic sessions?
Yes.
What types of things would you do?
We would discuss conflict resolution, oppositional defiance, underlying causes of his anger, which I determined to be as a result of a lot of traumatic events in his life.
What are the underlying causes of his problems?
Well, I would have to offer the opinion that the underlying causes are due to the trauma that's been in his life. Deaths, witnessing deaths, abandonment issues, trust issues, and generalized anger.
And sir, is this type of condition something that through your involvement is curable in a short period of time, or does it take an extended period of time with some setbacks even for the positive results ultimately to take hold?
Well, when you say curable, it's definitely a major improvement over the past year. His behavior at the Department of Corrections was acclaimed. In fact, I remember a quote by one of the counselors saying that we would like to Xerox his behavior and apply that to a lot of the students that were at the Department of Corrections. So he's come a long way. He's done remarkably well. He's improved a great deal.
Can you be more specific about the level of improvement that you've seen in the past year of working with him?
Yes, it demonstrated he had an allegiance with a street gang, and there was a lot of respect that he got with the street gang, a lot of authority with the street gang, and position and recognition. And recently, Rodrick has terminated his association by removing the tattoos on his arms, which is a measurable feat.
How significant of a step is that for somebody who's been affiliated with a gang to remove the gang signs from themselves?
It's a monumental step to, under duress from the gang, to acknowledge the fact that he's not a gang member by having the gang tattoos removed from his arm. That's a remarkable feat.
Apart from the outward changes that you just talked about, were there any internal changes that you were able to observe during the time that you were working with Rodrick?
Yes, his openness to self-disclosure is huge. He's able to talk about things. When he first met me, he would basically give me short, brief, one-syllable answers. Yes, no, I don't know. And now, as evidenced by his testimony today, he's very open to self-disclosure and considers himself to be able to talk intelligently about anything that's bothering him.
In dealing with people like Rodrick, notwithstanding all of the improvement that he's had, is there an expectation sometimes that there will be setbacks?
There will be setbacks, as expected. Every once in a while, like 99% of the time he's fine, and that 1% can get him in a place like this.
Is that what you believe has happened here?
That's what I believe has happened here.
Sir, what type of prognosis, if you will, would you be able to give to what happens next with Rodrick and your involvement with Rodrick?
Well, my expected results with Rodney is that at his next court review hearing, I was recommending from Rodrick to be released from the Family Support Services program because of his improved behavior.
let me play devil's advocate because I anticipate that this is going to be what's on everybody's mind today. How is it that you can, with confidence, tell the court today that what happened this last week is something that's not going to overturn the entire cart of progress that he's made?
This single incident is a very negative thing to happen to Rodrick. It has an impact on his behavior. But when I'm viewing the overall behavior of his past performance and the strengths that he has and the changes that have occurred, I still feel confident that Rodrick would be acceptable to be released from the Family Support Services Program.
Do you believe that it would be safe for him to be released from detention today?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that it would be safe for him to be released to the care and custody of his mother?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that there, if he's released, that there should be any type of restrictions conditioned upon his release in terms of curfew or anything like that?
Well, continued probation up until his court hearing and the requirements and regulations of that probation.
Thank you. That's all the questions that I have, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik?
No questions for Mr. Zembrowski.
Thank you, sir. You may have a seat for that. Next witness.
Judge, I'll allow Rodrick's mother to stand.
All right, Ms. Brown.
Tell us your name, please.
Cassandra Brown.
Let me just ask you point blank. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not Rodrick should be released from jail today and returned to your custody, or whether he should remain detained while the charges against him are pending?
Well, I think he should come home because he's been doing really good. And usually, you know, I don't have a problem out of Rodrick. This is just a one time that he just, you know, maybe he should have been in the house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, let's ask. Should he have been at the house at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, because I'm at work. So, you know, he should know when I'm gone, he should be at home. He should be there. He should be there, you know, just in case something's not right. You know, my oldest daughter, she's 15. She's capable of doing it, but I like for him to be there too.
Whether or not this is truly a one-time event that won't happen again, or whether this is part of an ongoing, continuing problem, how would you respond as Rodrick's mother to the court to assure the court that this is a one-time incident that won't happen again?
Well, you know, it wasn't like he went outside and he really intended to do something bad. He was just on his way going somewhere. But all I can say is I could tell Rodrick to stay in the house until the court day, or, you know, don't put yourself in situations where something might happen. But if you're where you're supposed to be, you won't have that problem.
Ms. Brown, have you noticed improvement in Rodrick over the past year?
Yes. Yes.
Why don't you talk about that?
Rodrick has a temper problem. You know, back in the day, he used to, you know, when he was a little younger, I don't know if that just come from his dad not being around, you know, and to get a little frustrated. But he's done very well since he's come from the boot camp. You know, he used to punch walls and, you know, that was his way of letting out his frustration. He wouldn't talk to me, but now he does. Even when I'm watching TV, he'll step in front of me and, Mom, I want to talk. Usually, that's not usually what he'll used to do back a year ago.
So today when you heard Rodrick expressing his real, I think, deep feelings about his father not being involved in his life, and about what brought him here today, that's not something he would have done before he went a year ago to the boot camp?
No. Mm-mm.
So he has come a long way, hasn't he?
Yes.
Do you believe that if he's released to your custody today that he would be able to follow your rules?
Yes. He has been. That's just, usually sometimes I'll drop him off at his girlfriend's house if I got time. But I have 4 other kids, you know, and sometimes he wants me to do things that's just not, I can't do at the moment. So usually I'll take him, I'll drop him off, and I'll pick him up. But in this case, that's not what happened.
That's all I have.
Mrs. Guzik?
Ma'am, I just want to clarify. Marquell, when he testified, by the way he responded, it led me to believe that he had your permission to be in somebody else's car at 1:30 on his way to his girlfriend's. Did he or did he not have your permission?
Yeah, he had my permission. I know Quill. I know Quill very well. Quill, he works at that gas station, so, you know, they'll call me. Like the night Rodrick went to jail, Quill called me. I knew Quill was picking him up. I didn't think he was going to stay. I thought Rodrick was just going to go see her and go back home.
Well, then I'm kind of confused because you were saying that you don't want him out when you're working, you want him at home watching the other kids, but yet you're telling me it was all right for him to get in the car with this guy and go see the girlfriend.
Well, that was for Friday, on the weekends, because Saturday morning I'll pick him up when I get off of work.
And you give him permission to go out at 2 a.m. or 1:30 a.m., knowing he's had all these problems, that he's on status with the court, and that there's a curfew in the city of Hammond and East Chicago?
Well, it's not like he was going to be walking the street. All he was supposed to do was get a ride from my house to someone else's house.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Thank you. Other witnesses, Mr. Robb?
No, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik, do you have any witnesses?
No, Judge.
Ms. Essex?
Your Honor, I have been working with Rodrick off and on over the past few years. Placed on intensive probation, I believe in 2006, and he lasted about 2 weeks. He cut my monitor off and he disappeared for months. When Rodrick was located, he did go to Camp Summit and came home through the community transition program, was placed back on probation with me, and provided services with Mr. Zimberski. I will be perfectly honest, I was very shocked this morning when I found out that Rodrick was back. He is scheduled to have court with Magistrate Commons next Tuesday, the 12th, for a review hearing that we were hoping to be able to release him at. In addition to the fact that Rodrick has opened up to me much more over the past few months, he was doing better at school, he was doing much better at home. Not only did he have the gang tattoos removed on his own, which he told me he was going to do that, and I did not really believe it was going to happen. A few weeks later when I saw him, it had. He actually asked me to stay on probation throughout the summer until his 18th birthday at his last hearing, because he felt that the extra supervision for myself and Mr. Zimberski would really help him get through the summer to ensure that he would be able to stay on the right track. In almost 7 years, I've never had a juvenile ask me for that extra time with probation and with the therapist. They want to get off, get done, and call it a day. And Rodrick actually came to me and looked me in my face and said, "Can you please stay with me on my case? Let me stay on probation with you so that we can get through this." So I do believe that he's screwed up. I can't guarantee you that he will do what he needs to do at home, because at the end of the day, that is his choice. But I have seen a lot of improvement in him, and we don't see that a lot. Hopefully, if he does go home today, like I said, we can come back next week, and if need be, I will check on him myself personally every day between now and when he comes back to court if need be. But he's shown that he has tried to do the right thing.
I have a question for Rodrick. You said that you have a baby on the way, right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have a baby that's here.
That's here. It's here.
And how old is that child?
That child is 2.
Is that a boy or a girl?
It's a girl.
And is that with the same mother?
No, there's 2 different people.
Okay. Do you see that baby, the one that's already here?
For the months that I've been knowing that I had it now, I've been going to see it for the past like 4 months, you know?
So you didn't know that you had a child prior to 4 months ago?
I was in boot camp or none of that. Nobody told me nothing. They kept it away from me. And my mother just told me like a month ago or 2 months ago. Well, actually, my little sister told my mother, and my mother told me that I had a kid on the way.
So the girl that's going to have the baby now is not the girl to whose home you went
No.
Friday night?
No, ma'am.
So you have a different girlfriend now?
Yeah, this is a totally different person.
All right, well, let me ask you a real important question. Do you know how to use a condom?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you use it? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm going to tell you what. You sat up here, gave a very heart-wrenching dialogue about you growing up without a father. Okay, after doing this 26 years, you had me choked up. You've got one here, one on the way. You don't have a relationship with either of those girls, right?
Except one. One I have a relationship with.
You're sitting here in a white outfit, which means you're detained. You've already been to boys' school. You were detained here prior to going to boys' school. And so I'm concerned for the children that you currently have and the kids that you're going to have in the future, and one of which is on the way, and them growing up without a father. Are you concerned about that?
That's why I'm here today, and I really feel like, if anything, if I go home today, it'll be for those 2 children. Even if the one that's not here yet, I still can be there for them. But regardless of what happened today, and regardless of when I get out, I'm still gonna take my responsibilities, because that's what I gotta do.
Well, I commend all the improvements that you've made in your life, and you've had a lot of people here today that have testified to that. And I'm certain the removal of the tattoos was, as your therapist or counselor suggested, was monumental, and I applaud that. But today what I'm going to do is order that you submit to a drug test. I wasn't quite convinced that your response to whether or not you could be clean today, was, wasn't sure you were sure about it. But that's part of, getting better and doing the right thing, is hanging around the people you need to be around and not hanging around the people you don't need to be around. And so I need to have, before you leave this facility, I'm going to order that you have a drug test. I'm going to find probable cause to believe that you've committed a delinquent act, refer the matter to the prosecutor's office to file their petition. And I'm going to set this matter over for, actually I'm going to do the hearing. I'm going to set it for August 15th, which is Friday. So Magistrate Commons won't hear that. I will be hearing that review on his current case. And if that's okay with you, Mrs. Guzik, if you can have your petition filed, we can proceed with initial hearing on that date as well, August 15th at 9 a.m. And I will order that if this young man tests negative, if he has a clean drug screen, I'm going to order that he be released on electronic home monitor so that he can be monitored every day till we come back to court on the 15th at 9 o'clock. If he's dirty, then he's going to stay here till we come back to court on the 15th. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Any questions, ma'am? No. Mr. Rupp?
None.
All right, this hearing's adjourned. Thank you.
I felt it went perfect. I didn't think I was gonna be in there that long. I feel like I'm gonna go to the crib. I'm just gonna stay away from negative people now. That's it. That's all I can do. Well, I guess I've been doing so well that they was more on my side and believed me on everything that I did. So, my counselor, man, him been talking over some things. So, when he come give me my drug test, I should be fine. And then hopefully I'll be able to go home. By the time I get to that front, I'll be able to go home.
That's when he take the drug test. I don't know, that part, I don't know. That's his word. And he got to learn, his word is his bond. If he wasn't smoking, he wasn't smoking. So, we'll see in a minute.
I'm not worried about it completely. I'm going home. That's the whole thing. I'm going home today. So,
I think a lot of his testimony was very truthful, but probably just experience. 26 years, you're out at 1:30 in the morning, you're with your buddies, you're out, come on. I mean, there's only so much you can do after midnight, and he's going to the girlfriend's house at 2 in the morning, and I'm hoping upon hope that he is clean, because it'll make his testimony a whole lot more credible. But, this is a kid with a pretty extensive history and a pattern of behavior that's really hard to change. It's hard to change in that 18-month period of time between boys' school and being home for 6 months. And it's summer, and there's a party atmosphere, sort of. So, that I decided when he wasn't real sure that he was clean or not. When you say, I forget what he said, but it was, I suppose so, or I imagine I can, or something like that. So I'm hoping that he's clean. But yeah, I figured out he's probably out with his buddies. And so if he's dirty, that's going to be a lesson for him to learn, that he'll have to stay here till August 15th.
He's in here for possession of marijuana and resisting law enforcement. He's already been to boys' school and he's on probation. So, we're gonna see what the judge has to say about this, because once the child goes to boys' school, it's a whole different situation. We do our best to rehabilitate the child, to make sure that, we can get him off the streets and stop getting into trouble, but when they come back after they've gone through boys' school, it's a whole different situation. You know, it's a matter of, do we send them back to boys' school? What do we do, especially in this case that he's going to be 18 years old? He's done so much better than in the past, you know, with his school.
I just was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
You know, he was failing his classes. That changed. You know, his grades started improving. He started attending his classes. He started working. And unfortunately, when you hang around with the wrong crowd, I mean, you get blamed sometimes for things that you don't even do. So what'd your mom say?
She said she's gonna be here at 8:30. She said she gonna come, but the guy that I was with, he told my mom everything that happened and about the other dude and all that. So she said she gonna be here at 8:30, just because she know I ain't do nothing this time.
Well, like I said, you know, the judge is the one who's going to determine whether you'll be released on Monday, and you do have another hearing on August 12th. So we'll see whether or not she feels that you're a danger to yourself or the community, and your probation officer will also give the recommendation if she feels that you should be released or detained here. So, you have any questions?
No, I just want to go home.
I'm sure you do, and I want you to go home too. But you put yourself in a situation when you hang around with the wrong crowd.
No, it just ain't hanging out with the wrong crowd. It's just being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But you weren't, I mean, like I said, you were doing so much better. You were doing really good.
Yeah, but you're saying it like I'm honestly like was out there like getting in trouble. Like I was just going to.
I don't know what happened.
I was just going.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if you're out there trying to get in trouble. That's what the court system is there for, to determine whether you're guilty or innocent. I'm not here to say that.
Well, there's only two ways I can look at it. One, I'm gonna either get out of here Monday and they either see like everything, because the police report don't even make sense, or it's either I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna do my time. I'll be 18, man. Like, it don't even matter, but I just don't want to do nothing for something that I didn't do.
I mean, you don't seem like a bad person. You're not a bad person.
I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. It's just funny, but I'm not even really too much worried about it. Like, for some reason, deep down in my gut, like, I really, really feel like I'm not worried about anything. I really feel like that. I really do feel like that, because they police report, like, it don't really make any sense. And if they did so-called, see, I think the only reason why they charged me with that marijuana is because we all was around, and it was just probably just laying there, and they ain't find it on nobody. So they just had to.
I don't want to know any of that because you don't have an attorney present. So.
It's all fine.
You want to get your attorney? That's up to you and your mom.
No, I just need to get out of Indiana, this lame state.
Where's your father?
Huh?
Where's your father?
My father dead.
When did he die?
Like 95.
And so it's just been you and your mom? Hey, who's showering kids today? Who's showering in the kids today? Yeah. You have more money than me. What is this? How much do you work? How many hours a week do you work? Huh?
Enough.
Enough? Wow.
But all that was supposed to go to something, though.
You're saving it for something else?
No, it was supposed to go to something like half of it. I was gonna buy my daughter some shoes with that. Not with all of that, but you know, I was gonna buy a pair of shoes when I woke up this morning.
And you're telling me this is money that you've earned in 1 week, 2 weeks, or?
Nah, that's money I had for like 3 weeks. I get like $150 like every Saturday.
Doing what?
Cutting grass.
Okay. You didn't tell me that. You just told me that you just.
I was working with mine, so yeah. But I told you clean up like 'Cause my auntie, she got brain tumor in her head, so she can't really do too much for herself. And, you know, by us helping her, she
Right.
help us.
Well, that's good.
And I sell like CDs and movies too, like bootlegs. You know what I
I don't
mean?
think your probation officer knows that you work.
I think Bob do.
He's not your probation officer.
Oh, he's talking about Miss Sarah.
Yeah. Your probation officer is the one who goes back and tells the court how you're doing, not your therapist. You need to be telling these things to your probation officer, whether you work or not.
Like, so you're not gonna like, cause they told me y'all weren't gonna take none of my stuff out my bag.
No, I have to count your money.
Okay. So making sure I don't want nothing. Not a charger, keys, $1, nothing. I got a check for every dollar that's up there.
$453? $453?
An iPod, 2 sets, well, an MP3 player, 2 sets, some keys, a charger, my chain and an earring, and a brush.
You said you sell CDs. How much do you sell the CDs for?
3 for $10.
Huh?
Movies and DVDs.
Say
Movies
that?
and DVDs.
How much
But
do you
I
sell?
do that like every once in a while. Whenever I get some blank CDs, get time for it.
You have so much potential. And I know that eventually you're gonna do right.
I miss what I am doing right.
I know, but you're right here with us. Again.
That's not my fault.
So they're
I can't
picking
help it
on
because
you?
I'm black and I look like a thug and I wear jewelry and I got money in my pocket and they think
I
I'm
don't
a
think
drug
that's what it
dealer.
is.
That's what it is. They just think I'm a drug dealer because I look at all that, man. If you see the car I got, I ain't even got a license. You'll think, you know, come on. They think everybody's selling drugs when they black and it's not even like that. I work hard for everything that I got and everything that I accomplished.
Well, it's your job to prove them wrong.
That's what I do. That's why my money's still sitting there because I got a check for every dollar that's there. No drug money.
So what did your mom say? How does she feel about you being in here again?
Cause like I told you, like I guess when she come to court, it's gonna be like 8 other people that's gonna come. I don't know if they gonna get in, but that's what they
I
said.
don't think so.
Well, that's what she told me. And she
Like
said
I
she gonna
said,
come because she said everybody that was out there told her that I didn't do nothing.
This is just a detention hearing. It's not a trial.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's based on them. They can take it to how they want it. My family got money. I can get a lawyer. You know, that's not a big problem. The big problem is me just being here for something that I really ain't do this time. But I'll be fine though. I'm gonna go back
See your
in.
tattoo? Why does it look like that?
Cause I just got it done. And I haven't, and then they was slamming me all yesterday, sliding me against the concrete. And it just like messed my whole tattoo up. It's crazy, man.
If anything, just do this for your kid, you know? Make sure you, when you get out of here,
Minutes, you just don't know, like, that's where I was going to attend my kid. And it's just like, I got caught being in the middle or something, like, where I wasn't supposed to be. Like, if I would have came to their house earlier like I was supposed to, maybe I wouldn't have never been in that situation. But by me, you know, want to do other stuff and go come on my own time, then by me coming in late and not knowing what's going on in somebody else's neighborhood got me in trouble.
exactly.
So it's either like I can take it like as a bad lesson, but I'm telling you like something just deep down in my gut telling me like it's just gonna blow through. Cause I know I ain't do nothing, and I know what I had, I know what I didn't have, so I know what happened. And the only thing that I really honestly can say that I'll go to jail for, I had a pack of Newports, and I don't even think they put that in there. And then resisting arrest. And the only reason why I resisted, because they tried to put something on me that wasn't mine. But, you know, that's the only thing I can say, I can really admit to, besides the whole drug thing. Like, you can't sit 3 people down and walk out a room and come back a bag of weed sitting there and you just put it on everybody.
I don't know, Roger. I
You
wasn't
know?
there, I can't tell you.
Out of somebody, that's, yeah.
Boxers or briefs? What color?
Black.
Okay. Anything else? No.
Wait, I don't think I got it same type
Put your head up. I need you to look over this and then sign right here if it's correct.
Nah, if ain't none of this here when I get back.
Look at me. I promise it'll be here.
Okay.
If your mom comes to the detention hearing, we'll give it to your mom. That's the only way you will not leave with that stuff.
Yeah, but y'all can't get that to her unless I say so, right?
We can give it to her. She'll sign right here saying that she received it.
Yeah, but that's not right to give away my stuff.
Hey, is Rico there? Okay. Rico, he's ready. Oh, okay. All right, when I finish taking these handcuffs off of you, I'm gonna need you to put your back on that wall right there. Okay? Go ahead, put your back on that wall. You look a whole lot different from when you were last here. You were actually smiling in your last picture.
Cause I knew I did wrong. I ain't do nothing this time.
Close the door behind you, okay?
No problem. You ever been before?
Yeah.
Take 2 steps back, lean forward. Okay. How many shirts you got on? How many shirts you got on? Huh? Just the t-shirt? Okay. Open your hand. Other hand.
This how I got searched yesterday. It's crazy.
You said what?
This how I got searched yesterday.
Gotta do it every time. Man. You just got on boxes and these shorts?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Have your key, Nora? I'm taking him off. I'm going home. Stand right here. These emblems on your shoestrings, just have to take them out.
Been before now?
I ain't do nothing this time. I ain't do nothing this time. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
You already sir.
Yeah, sir.
Today night.
Can't pay you back.
This is not the first time that Rodrick's been here, and usually when a child comes in more than once, it's a high percentage that he will be a repeat offender again. In his case, the last time he was here, he missed court, and they issued a bench warrant for him. So that's why he came in the last time he was here, for the bench warrant. This time around is for the possession of marijuana and resisting law enforcement, and he already went through pretty much the program. He's been to boys' school, but he's still on probation. So this is not his first offense, and he's on probation. So we'll see what the judge, what the outcome of the situation will be, and what the judge will say in that part is, So, I don't know.
What is that? Is that white paint?
It's supposed to be like when you put a low light on it, it's more than dark.
Okay. All right, hold your hands straight out. Squat. Cough. All right. You got any, last question, you got tattoos. You get your ears pierced?
Yeah.
Both of them? Any birthmarks?
No.
No birthmarks? What about scars? Like any new scars?
No, no scars.
You know what this is? Lysol. Supposed to kill all the lice and stuff in your head. If you got it, probably don't. You gotta put it in there. Right. Just rub it around like a shampoo. Make sure you get behind your ears and everything too. There you go. It's open up? Yeah. Now, go ahead and take a shower. You know what to do. These little metal symbols, they come on the Air Force Ones. These are Air Force Ones / Jordans. Little metal symbol, or they're plastic sometimes. We got to take them out of their shoes because you never know what they could do with them. Sharpen them up, use them in a fight, you know what I'm saying? So we got to take those out. Those with any shoes, any metal objects on any shoes, we got to take them off. Now I just got to go through his clothes.
You remember this guy?
Very vaguely. I remember his face. I'll never forget his face. He a pretty mild-mannered dude, from what I know. Wrap yourself up with that blanket.
I believe these outside clothes too, right?
No. All right, man.
Tested positive for marijuana. Last time, the prosecutor was originally recommending 120 days locked up here and having you admit to one of the charges. Here's where we're at now. Here's where we're at now. The last thing she recommended, we talked about, was if you admit to one of the charges, that she'd recommend 30 days locked up here. I told her, hold on, listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. What she agreed to do.
Right. Listen. Right.
Okay. Hold on, hang in there. Hang in there. Here's what she's agreed to do, and I think this is what we should do. You're charged with two things: possession of marijuana, and resisting arrest. You admit to the allegations of one, they'll dismiss the other, and then we can go in there and we can argue to the court whether you should be released, the time served. We can argue that. My point is we can argue what it should be, okay? Which is I think the best thing we've got going, because I think last time the court was impressed by all the people who spoke positively about you, and frankly was probably a bit surprised that you were back here again.
I don't even care about being here, man. I got responsibilities at home.
Okay. Well then, here's what I recommend that we do.
Right. Calm down and listen.
Okay. Here's what I recommend that we do. I recommend that we admit to the possession of marijuana. They'll dismiss the other one, and then we go in there.
Why would I do that at night? If I so-called had possession of marijuana, like why do I still got all my money and I've been in jail for marijuana?
Here's the point.
before.
The point is you risk going to trial and being, found guilty of doing it and facing the full sentence. So I think we've got a good chance of getting you out of here very, very soon if we do it this way. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to get out of here.
I don't want to say it no more. Motherfuckers ain't even doing that.
Rod, that's my point, is you want to get out of here, right? The best chance to get you out of here soon is to go and convince the judge that that's what needs to happen. Are you still recommending, same as before, that it's okay for him to go home?
Yes.
Okay, because frankly, the prosecutor's going to be arguing that he remain incarcerated. I don't know for how long they're going to recommend, like I told you. I'm going to be arguing that he should basically be sentenced to time served.
Yes.
And go home and be home for his birthday.
Okay.
I need to know that I've got a witness who's in a position to testify that still is indeed a good result. You're that guy? That it's okay for him to go home?
It's okay for him to go home.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And you're still saying?
The 30 days with credit for time served.
Okay, so that's like 15 days.
So that would be about 16 days,
okay.
yeah.
All right, so we're...
And as far as marijuana positive, that's the first and only time that he was tested ever positive for
Okay.
marijuana.
Well, the issue is going to be that you're going to, I'm sure, have to explain either to myself or to the prosecutor is, he's had all of these services, all of this money and effort has been spent on him. Right. To have such a small violation is almost worse than having a big violation because you should have known better than to, smoke marijuana or have it on you, given everything you've been through.
I think he's trying to help me out in his best way. But hopefully today I go home. I just hope, I'm expecting the worst and hoping for the best. But if my mom tell me it ain't gonna be all right, then I guess everything gonna be okay. It's just, man, I've been through this. I just did a whole year, boys school. And then they want me to admit to something I ain't do. And then I got kids at home, man, and I'm even supposed to be here. But I guess they was gonna let me go home 2 weeks ago. And then I had to take a drug screen, so I failed. And they told me I had to stay until my next court date. And now it's today. But my lawyer trying to give me just 30 days, and the prosecutor, she trying to give me 120 days. And my lawyer trying to fight for me for 30. And they trying to give me, I guess, for 15 time served here already for the 15 days I've been here. And I guess he trying to give me another 15, I guess, during weekends or here. But anyway it go, I just want to go home, be 18 years old tomorrow. You know, it's gonna be the 4th birthday, man. I ain't been home.
These are the matters of Rodrick Lavelle Brown, cause number 45 DO 60612 JD 2434, which is set for review, and cause number 45 DO 60808 JD 1374, which is set for initial hearing. Let the record show that Attorney Guzik is present representing the prosecutor's office. Ms. Essex and Ms. Clayton are present from the probation department. Attorney Ruck is present representing Rodrick. Your name, ma'am? And you're his mother? All right. Your name, sir? And you're his therapist? Okay. Very good. As I said, one of the matters is set for review, which was previously being heard by Magistrate Commons, and we have the new matter, which is set for initial hearing. Mr. Ruck, has your client been advised of his rights?
He has, Judge.
Does he understand what his rights are?
He does.
Any questions about them?
Nope.
All right. What is your pleasure? Would you like to proceed with the initial hearing first or the review?
Judge, we can proceed with the initial hearing first.
All right. I will read the charges to him and then ask if he will be entering an admission or denial to the charges. Count 1, possession of marijuana or hashish, class A misdemeanor if he was an adult, IC 35-48-4-11, reads on or about the 2nd day of August 2008, Rodrick Lavelle Brown did knowingly or intentionally possess marijuana in an amount less than 30 grams. Would he be entering an admission or denial to the allegation?
A denial, Judge, to that allegation.
Count 2, resisting law enforcement, Class A misdemeanor, IC 35-44-3-3, on or about the 2nd day of August 2008. Rodrick Lavelle Brown did knowingly or intentionally flee from a law enforcement officer after that officer identified himself by visible or audible means, ordered said child to stop, that officer being Police Officer Justin Orange, East Chicago Police Department. Does your client wish to enter admission or denial to that allegation?
He's entering an admission to that allegation, Judge.
All right. Based upon his admission, do you want to set the recite a factual basis?
Mr. Brown, I want to ask you, as a part of what we had talked about and as a part of our admission to the resisting law enforcement, I would like you to tell the court what happened that night on August 2nd, 2008, only as it relates to your involvement with the police officer and to the resisting law enforcement charge. Nothing to do with the marijuana or anything else that happened that night.
He asked me, was the marijuana man? He was in the process of arresting me for the marijuana, and I wasn't finna let him take me to jail for something that wasn't mine.
So did you resist law enforcement at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you did so intentionally, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Judge, that's all the questions I have.
Based upon his admission to that allegation, Mrs. Guzik, what is your intention as to the other count 1?
Judge, the state's going to move to dismiss that.
All right. Then I'll show that count 1 has been dismissed by the state of Indiana, and I will grant the petition as to count 2 and find that that Rodrick Lavelle Brown is a delinquent child. What about disposition in this matter? Do you want me to set it over for disposition, or are we ready to proceed with a recommendation?
We're ready to proceed, Judge. I spoke with the prosecuting attorney, Ms. Guzik, prior to today's hearing, and we'd agreed that we will argue what the sentence should be. There's no dispute that I think probation should remain in place. The issue is, should he remain incarcerated for a period of time or not? Our position is he should go home. The state has a different position.
All right. Let's address first the cause that he was on a review. In that matter, which ends in cause number 2434, Rodrick was committed to the Indiana Boys School, and he served several months there and was released with the community service program in place, and was currently on that with Family Support Services, where he was receiving services from Mr. Zamborski. And I'm wondering at this time, Ms. Essex, do you have a recommendation about whether or not he should continue on probation under that cause, or what exactly the court, your recommendation is what the court should do with that?
Your Honor, prior to this new charge occurring, what probation was going to be recommending was that he be released from formal probation under this complaint and that Family Support Services be discharged, based on the fact that since he has come home and was placed back on probation in January, he did show a lot of improvement in the home setting, the school setting. He was for a time working decided that he did not want to work in the fast food business anymore, has been doing odd jobs for family members, things of that nature. He did have the gang tattoos removed, covered, which we had covered at the detention hearing, and based on the progress that he made, probation is going to be recommending discharge, especially now if he were to be given a commitment here and released. He has been afforded numerous services through this court since 2005, formal probation, intensive probation, Department of Corrections, counseling, anger management, letters of apology, community service work. So at this time, probation feels that perhaps he should be released under that complaint and then be given time under the initial hearing charge.
Okay. So at this time then, Mr. Ruck, do you have any objection to the court dismissing and finding that he has completed the program under cause number 2434?
Absolutely not.
All right. Let's move on then to the new charge that he has just admitted to. Ms. Essex, do you have a recommendation about what the disposition in that cause ought to be?
Your Honor, probation is considering doing 30 days for each of the complaints. However, since one was dismissed, we would be asking for 30 days with credit for time served for the 14 that he has served since he was detained under that cause. I believe it was a lapse in judgment. This has not been a problem since he has returned home. I don't think that putting him on probation under this complaint would give him anything more than we've already given him under previous charges. So the recommendation would be that he serve the additional 16 days and that when he be released, he have no further services at that time.
Mrs. Guzik?
Well, Judge, the state concurs with probation's recommendation at to a 30-day commitment at LCJC. Rodrick's going to be 18 tomorrow. As Ms. Essex has indicated to the court, he's received numerous services over the past 3 years from this court. I believe it's unlikely that a few more months of supervision by probation is going to effectuate any additional rehabilitation. With that said, he needs to be accountable for the most recent incident that he admitted today, and we would ask that the court commit him to the Lake County Detention Center for 30 days in Stanter.
Mr. Ruck?
Judge, I'll be brief. I do want to give Mr. Zemberski the opportunity, because he did prepare a new report for today's hearing. But let me just say this, Judge. I've gotten to know Rod very well since these charges have happened. And in terms of the issue of punishment, what should happen to him, I think the worst punishment that's happened to him is him to have to face the disappointment of his mother, of the court, and of everybody, and of the probation officer, who have talked in very glowing terms about how much progress he made. Remember, this is the kid who requested that he be put back on probation so he could continue to get the services as opposed to falling back into the trap. Remember, Judge, we see kids all the time. Nobody improves in a straight-up line. Improvements, particularly improvements with the background and the home life that he's had and the difficult challenges that he's faced, with the friends that he's had and the trouble that they've been in, it's never a straight-up level of improvement. Ironically, it almost was for him. It seemed to me like over the last year that it was nothing but improvement. But what I think that Mr. Zemberski will tell you, and what I want to reiterate to the court today, is the system's working with him. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. There are setbacks. This is a setback. He got himself in a bad situation, and he's regretting it. In terms of the punishment, he's been in here now for 2 weeks, locked up for 2 weeks, away from his family, away from his friends, and away from his life. His mother's here again today, ready to take him home. But more importantly, the punishment he's had to face all of those around him who marveled at the level of improvement that he had and were so disappointed when he ended up back here. So, Judge, I would suggest that he be dismissed today and punished or sentenced to time served.
All right. Did you want to call your first witness?
Mr. Zemberski.
Been sworn in previously, just on the roll.
Tell us your name again, sir.
Robert Zemberski.
What is your profession?
I'm a therapist with the Family Support Services Program.
And as a part of your working with that agency, have you had occasion to work with Rodrick Brown?
Extensively, yes.
And I know that you testified at the detention hearing at that time. Your recommendation is that it would have been appropriate for Rodrick to go home that day, correct?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Now, you're aware that the court had given Rod the opportunity to go home that day if he were to pass a drug test.
Exactly, yes.
Did you administer that drug test?
Yes, I did.
What were the results?
Positive
For what?
for THC, cannabis, marijuana.
Okay. Let me ask you then the question. In your experience working with individuals like Rod, with his background, with all the problems that he's had, we all agree that he's made a great deal of progress. Are there setbacks?
Yes, periodically there are setbacks.
And is what happened with Rod and what he's admitted to today a typical type of setback that you see in somebody with his background?
Periodically there are setbacks similar to what happened with Rodrick, yes.
Okay. Now, does a setback such as this change the overall trajectory of the improvement that he was making?
Overall, no. Overall, if you're 99.9% cooperative compliant and that 1% takes the spotlight, it does have a bad effect on the overall picture. But when you look at the consequences as opposed to the successes, it's minor.
Do you believe it would be harmful at all to the community, to others, if Rod were released today?
No, not at all.
Let me ask you the corollary question, sir. Do you believe that continuing to keep Rod in detention for another 30 days, beyond the 2 weeks he's already spent here, could that actually have a detrimental effect on the progress that he was making?
It could decompensate him further, yes.
How so?
His morale, his judgment might be impaired. At this point, I see no purpose in any more punitive damages, or punitive punishment, I'm sorry.
Do you agree with what I had indicated before, that part of the punishment is having to face those around him who have worked so hard to see him improve?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to continue to work with him?
At this point, I'm saying that the family support services have been exhausted.
So you're done?
And I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik?
Mr. Zembrowski, do you see any positive effects if he was detained here?
Actually, no.
Well, what about that he wouldn't have access to marijuana?
I'm not sure that's a fact.
You think he'd have access to marijuana if he was detained here?
I'm not sure that there is a absolute positive position to take on that.
Now, you talked about people having therapeutic setbacks. If those therapeutic setbacks are criminal in nature, do you believe they should just be ignored?
I don't focus on the criminal aspect of it. I'm looking at the therapeutic aspect of it.
Well, in this instance, the therapeutic setback is criminal in nature. He had marijuana, he tested positive for marijuana, and he's admitted to resisting law enforcement. So do you just think that that should be ignored?
Well, it could be addressed, but I don't understand more continuous punitive results.
So you look at incarceration at LCJC as punitive?
In this instant, yes.
And don't you think he needs to show some accountability for his actions?
Yes, but not necessarily to be detained.
Well, what would be the accountability?
The acknowledgement of it.
I have no further questions for Mr. Zembrowski.
Do you have anything for Mr. Zembrowski?
You understand he's already been here for 2 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And you believe that certainly that had a punitive effect?
Yes.
Okay, that's all that I have.
I have a couple questions. You said that the family support services have been exhausted. Is that because you think the other case is going to be dismissed now, or why did you say that?
No, I'm just saying therapeutic services. I've spent so much time with Rodrick, and I've seen all the progress that he's made over the course of the case. And so at this point, I think that 99.9% of the time of him being compliant was very encouraging. The one setback is relative, but it's not enough to contaminate the 99%.
Okay. Do you think, all right, last time you testified, you said that you met with him, what, weekly, sometimes multiple times during a week?
Yes.
And that led up to the actual day that we were in court for the detention hearing, and I detained him, which was approximately 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
And so for the last 2 weeks, then you haven't visited with him, have you?
No.
And if I release him today, if I do what Attorney Ruck has suggested that I do, and I release him today, and we dismiss everything, and he goes home, do you see that as a danger for him without some kind of a safety net? I mean, by your own admission, you've been dealing with this young man for multiple times weekly for about a year, right?
Yes.
And for him to go home with no support, do you think that that is setting him up for maybe some type of failure?
Well, actually, what has been transpired is I expected his release. And so in preparation for that, I've already initiated the termination process.
I see.
So we went from 3 times a week to 2 times a week to once a week. So there was therapeutic services with the termination process in effect.
So you think that he would be just fine without having to see you multiple times a week, or having to check in with a probation officer, or do urine drops to check to make sure that he's not using drugs?
Based on his past performance, yes.
Okay.
He will be okay.
All right. Any questions based on what I asked?
No questions, Judge. I wanted to comment.
Mrs. Guzik?
But he did have a dirty urine drop, right?
Yes, he did.
Well, how are we going to know that that's not going to happen again?
I don't think there's any guarantees in this situation. But in the course of an entire year, with multiple drops, twice a week since, say, December, we've got 16, maybe 20 negative urine specimens. We've got 1 positive. I think the overwhelming evidence for me is that he's been compliant. He had a little relapse. He's going to be fine.
Well, is it possible that that's not a relapse, but the start of a pattern of marijuana use?
It's possible, but not probable.
But he's had a problem with marijuana in the past for quite a while, hasn't he?
Years ago, yes.
I have no further questions.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Ruck?
Not of the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zembrowski. Next witness?
Talk to the judge. Do you? We're going to keep yourself together. All right, good. Judge, I would call Mr. Brown to stand, please.
All right.
Tell us your name.
Rodrick Lavelle Brown.
Mr. Brown, we've heard all the testimony today about what people think should happen to you as a result of the charge and admission of resisting law enforcement. What do you want to have happen?
Well, me, I'm always a big person and taking responsibilities for my actions. You know, so I understand I resisted law enforcement. And, you know, me being back there in that room for 2 weeks, you know, that really got to me. And I know I tested, like, positive for marijuana, but that's something I did, like, back in July, and I thought I was going to be clean by the time I came to court. But I ain't know, like, I was going to get in trouble, like, 2 weeks before my court date.
Rod, do you understand and I know some people might say, well, just using a little bit of marijuana isn't like, you know, shooting somebody. But at the same time, do you understand the significance of that one use of marijuana, what it had on your family and your life, and frankly, on the underlying charges that you already had pending against you?
Well, I take full responsibilities for my actions, and if I wouldn't have never used that marijuana weeks ago, I would have been home. And I would have been coming here to get that ankle monitor took off my leg today. I feel like I've been punished, you know, but the only thing that really hurt me the most is all these people that's been working with me. I just feel like I let them down, you know, like Miss Sarah, Bob, my mom. And I feel like I let them down because they've been working so hard with me. You know, I'm disappointed at myself, you know, and then I got, like, a kid on the way. I just want to, like, go home and take care of my responsibilities.
Okay, that's all that I have, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik?
Rodrick, do you remember when we were in court 2 weeks ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember Judge Bonaventura asking you about taking a drug test?
Yes, ma'am.
She asked you if you'd be clean or dirty. What was your response?
My response was, and she asked me, that didn't sound too right. And I wasn't too much sure because I didn't know if I was going to test positive or not.
Well, didn't you say you probably should be clean, something like that?
I probably should.
So, but you knew you'd been using marijuana, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were trying to put one over on the judge, right?
Nah, I thought I was going to be clean. So that's why I didn't say yes, and that's why I didn't say no.
Well, if you take accountability for what you do, why didn't you tell the judge, well, I did use in July? Why didn't you tell her that?
I think mainly because I was scared and I thought I was like gonna be in so much of a lack of trouble, but look where I am now, you know? And if I would have told it the right way like I was supposed to, then maybe I wouldn't have been this far now.
So you were hoping you were going to get by with it?
Not necessarily.
Well, you knew you were lying to the judge.
Judge,
What?
hold on. I'm going to object to that. He answered the question. The question the court asked was, would he pass a drug test, not did he use marijuana?
I'm going to sustain the objection.
No further questions, Judge.
Anything else, Mr. Rock?
No.
I have a couple questions for Rod. At some point prior to the last time you came into court, you asked, I believe Ms. Essex testified that you requested to remain on probation. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did that why?
Because I felt like if I would have got off probation earlier, and like, I guess like when I got things like hanging over my head, it scribes me to work harder. Mm-hmm. And didn't nobody sit down and tell me to be on probation. That's something I thought about myself. And I felt like I needed Mr. Bob and Miss Sarah a little bit more in my life. Because, you know, the summertime was coming and a lot of kids get in trouble in the summertime. And I felt like if I still had Bob and Sarah somewhere around my life, then maybe it'll help me more. So when I do get off probation, by the time I make 18, I'll be a better person.
Which is the reason why I asked Mr. Zimbersky about releasing you today. I mean, if you go home today, if you go home 2 weeks from today, and Miss Sarah and Mr. Bob are not in your life, how will that be for you? Do you think you'll be able to stay out of trouble?
I think I would, because I always think about what they have done to help me and what I have become. Because people, you know, they probably just sit and they looking at everything I've been in trouble for, but they not taking the time and looking and seeing the positive things that I have became.
Let's talk about one of those positive things. You had tattoos removed, didn't you?
Yeah.
And what kind of tattoos were they?
I had gang tattoos, a scripture on my arm.
And did someone tell you to take that off?
No, actually, a year ago with Mr. Bob, when I first met Bob, I told Bob I was gonna remove my gang tattoos when I got released from DOC. And it took me a long time to understand, to know what I wanted to put over that gang activity. And then I knew that I was going, you know, I knew I was going to do better in life. And that's why I removed the gang tattoos, because I ain't want part of that life no more. Because, you know, the gang is not here helping me right now.
That's right. So you did that on your own. The court didn't order you to do that?
I did.
Your mother didn't ask you to do it?
No. And my mother was very happy that I did that. She was actually shocked.
I'm happy that you did it. I think that's a great thing you did. Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me today?
I feel like, I know I did wrong, but I do feel like I've been punished, you know? Like, I take responsibilities for my actions. But I just, in the end, I feel like I've been punished. I've been here 2 weeks, and it's been a long, long 2 weeks, and I haven't seen my mom.
You haven't seen your mother?
Yeah, I'm gonna be 18 tomorrow. And you know, for the past 3 years, I've been incarcerated for my birthday. And tomorrow I'll be 18 years old. And some people, they used to tell me that I wouldn't live to see 18. For all the stuff that I used to do, they used to tell me I wouldn't live to see 18. And tomorrow I'll be 18 years old.
So do you think you're wiser now, now that you've gone through everything you've gone through in the past 3 years?
I believe so, and I believe, you know, last year
I didn't like Miss Sarah's actions at all. I can honestly.
You're probably not alone.
I can honestly
Some of her other
say
kids
that.
don't like her either, I'm sure.
But I promise you, I appreciate her sending me to the Department of Corrections, cause it changed. Cause if I would have been released and just went home, I probably would have been on doing the same thing, gang banging, selling drugs, doing it all. But going to the DOC, it made me sit down and think about what I needed more in life, And I got out of there, went to school. I haven't been suspended yet.
Good for you.
And that was like a big thing. I'll be a senior in high school this year. And I'm planning on graduating next June. I was supposed to graduate this June. But I just feel like I let down a lot of people that just helped me. And it's my first downfall. But I ain't gonna let it keep me down. Cause when I go home, regardless if I go home today or 2 weeks from now, when I get out, I'm still gonna go to school and I'm still gonna be this positive person I became because I like the person that I became. Yeah, cause if I was still doing the same thing, everybody in this courtroom would not be, they'd be against me.
If you remember 2 weeks ago, Miss Essex sat here and said you should go home that day, in spite of everything she heard that day. So there's a lot of people that think, they like the person you've become too, okay? All right, have a seat next to your lawyer now.
And another thing I would ask, may I just please hug my mother?
Oh, sure, you can go back there and hug her now, okay. Okay. Any final things, Mr. Rock?
Just very briefly, Judge, I think the testimony of Rod speaks for itself. All I say in conclusion is, it seems to me that the prosecution's case is, do we have proof that this won't happen again? Well, I'll admit, we don't. We don't have proof that he's not going to leave here today and go out and gather with the same friends that caused all the trouble to begin with. We never have that proof. But the purpose of this system, the juvenile court system, is to do our best to rehabilitate a kid who's had the problems that Rod has had, and to give him another chance. And to give him another chance after that, after we try and help him again. And by all intents and purposes, the system's done their job. We've given him all the help we can, and I will tell you, he turns 18 tomorrow. The consequence now, if he leaves here today and associates with the bad people around him again and does anything close to what he was even charged with in this case, is that he ends up not here having this kind of discussion, but across the street. Right. I think, Judge, that kind of motivation is more than what's necessary to assure the court that this won't happen again. And we've done all we can do. Thank you.
Mrs. Guzek, anything?
Just briefly in response, the prosecution's case isn't will it happen again, but did it happen? We know it did happen. He's admitted it happened. Plus, we have a dirty drug screen. Once again, Judge, he's been provided numerous services through this court. The state believes that actions speak louder than words. We've sat here, you and I, many, many years, and listened to many children promise this court, you and I, many things. Often we were disappointed. I'm not real impressed by people's words. I'm very impressed by their actions. Today, I'm not real impressed by Rodrick's actions. He's made a lot of positive changes in his life that appear to be positive changes, but he's still involving himself in criminality. And I think because of that, he needs to be held accountable. And once again, the state reiterates its request for 30 days commitment to LCJC.
There's a whole bunch of stuff I could say to you today, Rod. One of them is to echo what Mr. Ruck just said about if you go out, whether it's today or 2 weeks from today, and engage in criminal activity. I can guarantee you that there won't be Bob Zimbersky over there, there won't be Sarah Essex, or any of the other people that you've made friends with and that have been supportive to you over the last 3 years. Because over there, they don't care about care, treatment, or rehabilitation. They're about punishment. And maybe that's the way to do it. In the juvenile court system, we do it differently. And for a reason. We try to prepare young people that are going astray to get back on the right path. And it sounds like you did that and are doing that, hopefully, and will continue to do that. And you have had a lot of services, and it sounds like you've taken advantage of those services and done some really good things in your life. I know that it was huge for you to remove the gang tattoo, which speaks volumes to me. After doing this job for 26 years, I'm sure there's somebody out there that has, but no one that I'm aware of that's ever done that and has sat up on the stand and testified that you've done it, knowing that you're going to go back out in the same city that you were in when you belonged to that gang and maybe take your chances of what denouncing them might do to you today. And so I take my hat off to you for that. I think that's very commendable, and I think that shows the improvements and the changes you've made in your life. Today, what the court's going to do is dismiss the case that was pending the review before Judge Commons and release you from probation under that cause. I will say, too, that I had a discussion with Judge Commons about you this morning. I know you remember him. And what he said to me about you was that you're like this close to succeed, and you're so afraid of that it's easier for you to fail. Because drug addicts and criminals are a dime a dozen in this county and in this state and in this nation. But you are this close to succeeding. He knows you're going to succeed. I don't know. I haven't known you as long as he has, but I've known him pretty long. And if he thinks that about you, I know you're going to make it, and I want you to make it. And if you ever get to a point where you think you can't, just think about this hearing today and all this argument about whether you're a good person or you're not. There's only really one opinion in this room right now that matters, and it's mine. And I think you are a good person, and I think you're going to make it. And for that reason, today the court is going to order that you serve 30 days in the Lake County Juvenile Center, and I'm going to give you credit for the time you've served. I'm going to release you today and order you be released to the custody of your mother. Okay. Any questions? All right. You're welcome. This hearing's adjourned. Thank you.
All right. You got it.
May I hug Ms. Bobson-Bursky and Ms.
Sure.
Sarah Essen?
If they want to hug you, you can hug them.
I'm not going to make that request.
Okay, man. It's gonna be okay.
Thanks, Bob. It's gonna be fun. This is my first
You
time
like me
out
now,
to hug you,
huh?
Miss
I
Sarah.
know. So we're good now?
All right.
Head up. You know how to get a hold of me if you need me, right? Okay.
I appreciate everything you've done for me, Miss Sarah.
You know how you get a hold of me if you need me, even if you're done with me, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Head up.
Good night. Take care. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Hang in there. Oh, take care. Yeah, good. Okay.
I thought they was gonna make him do the extra 15 days. But hey, I guess, all the other little work he's been doing up to the August the 2nd, it paid off. Get something good out of it. So he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay. Rodrick, he just, he'll be all right.
He's a good kid that obviously,
Yeah, he's smart. That's the real part, that he's really smart. He's real intelligent. I tell him, I say, why you keep going the wrong way when you're too smart for that? You got to use it on something positive. I say, all the negative stuff you do, if you can use it on something positive, you'll be good. You'll be real good. So hopefully he'll take from this, because I told him, you turn 18. Next time you go to jail, you're going to be calling me from a payphone. And I ain't got no bond money. So he'll be okay. I don't think he really want to, come back to jail no more.
What's your hope for him once he returns home? What's your hope for your family when he back?
Well, school starts in about another week, so he got to get ready for school. I know he want to go to school, and we probably move, so he'll be okay. He'll be all right. Just get him away from the environment, something different. He'll be okay. Get him a different job. Help him find another job. That's what we'll do. Help him find another job and make sure he stay at school. He'll be all right.
Is this kid going to be okay once he's released? Is he going to be better in 2 weeks after serving more time than he is to be released now? So my gut feeling is that he's okay the way he is now. Yes, he did relapse. But when you look at the overall behavior, months and months of compliant and weed-free and doing what he's supposed to do in classroom and attendance and everything, he's a good kid. So I can't, in my heart, my gut feeling is, no more punitive stuff. He needs to be counseled, he needs to be listened to, and that's what he got.
The population that I deal with, I work for intensive probation, so I get, the majority of my cases are on house arrest. They have a state commitment already. They're seen weekly by myself as well as our other staff. So when I originally had Rodrick, I think he lasted about 2 weeks in the house before he decided to run after having a disagreement with mom, and he was missing for about 5 to 6 months. So when he came here, we really had no choice in what we were going to do with him because he was already ordered to be at the Department of Corrections if he failed my program. So I think that since he's been home, you can see a major difference, that he hasn't run away again. He has always been pretty forward with me about what's going on. When he's told me he's going to do things, he's followed through. So I think that that speaks a lot more than just him telling me, yeah, I'm going to get my tattoos removed. But when I went to see him again and they were actually covered up, when he asked about getting progress reports at school from his teachers and he got blank ones while I was there to have them fill out, those are the kinds of things that, seeing that, it spoke a lot more, you know, like the prosecutor said, actions speak louder than words. So I think that he's proven to me a lot, which we can't say about all of our kids, especially once they come home from the Department of Corrections. It's, you know, a 50-50 shot if they're going to go on the straight and narrow or if it's going to kind of turn them the other way. So I think that he's shown what he's really made of, and hopefully he's sincere in what he's saying now, and, you know, it's not just to get out of the juvenile center, and hopefully, you know, I'll hear from him later on that he's doing well and we get along now. And you need accountability, but you don't want accountability to be where it's going to cause them to go the other way and it's going to make them go back on any progress they've made. And I think that's the hard thing as a probation officer. It's not easy for us to lock people up, regardless of what people think. They think that it's so easy to come in and take somebody out of the home and away from their family, and it's not an easy decision to make. Their behavior determines what we have to do in court. So with him, it's about finding a punishment that's appropriate to hold him accountable, but also not make him go back the other way where he was before.
Well, that's encouraging for me to go on to the next case, because I know I'm measurably doing something that affects the kids and the family and eventually the community. So, you know, I'm in a position where I don't have to do this, but I'm doing it because it's really working from my heart. It's better than retiring and hanging around McDonald's. So my position now is, since I have more past than future, what can I do that's valuable to the community? And so I feel very rewarded. And of course, the acknowledgement from Rodrick is appreciated, but I'm ready to move on to the next case. He's going to be a very productive member of society. He's going to be graduating next year and on to college or a trade school.
Your hope?
I would say that my hope is that whatever Rodrick decides to do with his life, that he is able to be successful at it. A lot of my old kids wind up incarcerated across the street in the adult system, or we end up burying them. And I am tired of losing kids. So my hope for Rodrick is that we don't have to go through that with him, and that whatever it is he decides to do, that he's successful at it and that it makes him happy.